It has been described as birth for men, absent of the usual preceding lust and drama, with an eye only for the pain. I find the comparison misleading. As we pass over the darkened hangang, I search for a position that will silence the alarm-like throbbing. I imagine that inside me, at about my waist, there's a black, jagged crystal trying to shoot through like an asteroid in space. But that's not really what it's like. It's a kidney stone, and the pain is enough to make you vomit, even faint. Luckily, I guess, I've been able to remain conscious, though I do hold a plastic bag in case the sickness returns. Sitting beside me is Yunsa, my wife. She strikes gently between my shoulders and then drags her open hand down to my lower back. These movements are continuous, repetitive, hypnotic. Her grandmother taught her this. It's supposed to ease pain, bring calm. I think it's intended for children, but it works well enough on me. As the train descends underground again, I close my eyes and try to recall a summer night from my youth. The hospital is full of suffering. We can hear disembodied moans and wails, but the cool air-conditioned hallways are a welcomed escape from the suffocating August night, and we don't see anything too heartbreaking, since everyone suffers behind individual white curtains. It doesn't take long for my diagnosis and the first steps of treatment. Soon, I'm laid out across what feels like a dentist's chair at full recline. I'm on my belly, looking at the dust on the floor, swaying like vegetation on a seabed. My pants are at my ankles. The nurse has placed my hand over the spot where she injected me with the painkiller before she ran out for another patient. I stay like this for some time, watching the dust, thinking of sea life covering my wound. It's when I start to wonder where Yunsa is that I remember the pain on the subway and then realize that the pain is gone. That asteroid is still in there, but my sun has stopped shining on it, or rather it thinks it has. I'm not quite sure how these things work, but here I am, back to the old reality, as if I had never left. Finally, the curtain moves aside, the dust blows off. Out of my line of vision, it's Yunsa. "How are you feeling?" she asks. "It's like it never happened," I say, turning on my side so I can get a better look at her. "Isn't that what you said last night?" she says. I try to remember. "I don't think so," I say. "Last night my asteroid stopped moving. Tonight it's flying in the dark." "What asteroid?" she asks. "The fallen star over here," I say, looking down at my naked waist. She twists her mouth into what could be mistaken for a smile, but isn't. "Whatever," she says. "They gave me a prescription, so you shouldn't have any more scenes like this. Now we just have to wait for it to come out. To land," I correct her. "Sure," she concedes, "to land." Outside the hospital, the air feels less suffocating, less humid than before we had entered. Even though it's Saturday night and the hospital is located in a popular university neighborhood, the calm of Sunday morning settles over the wide thoroughfare before us and all the dark alleys that feed it. As we walk over a pedestrian bridge that has us high above this lonesome street, I'm suddenly struck by a realization that brings me to a stop before I can express it. Holding Yunsa's hand, I say, "Can you believe it? This is the first date we've been on in over 6 months since Lynn was born." "But this isn't a date," she laughs. "Well, not a normal date, I'll admit, but we're out of the house alone, and we don't need to rush back, do we?" "I guess not," she says, and then speaking more to herself than to me, "She was sleeping when we left, and Mother should be okay with her. But what are we going to do?" "It's a nice night for a drink," I suggest. "I'm breastfeeding," she says. "So you are," I say. "And you're on medication," she reminds me. "Not the kind you can't drink with," I say. "And besides, I'm just going to have one." I squeeze her hand. "What about me?" she asks. "We'll go to a cafe. Coffee and beer. Real freedom." "I'm not drinking coffee either," she says. "I can't imagine our mothers made these types of sacrifices," I say. "I don't think they knew any better," she says. "We know too much and we suffer for it. How about an herbal tea or a fizzy juice? The ones that come with the twisty straw." She frowns at the mention of a straw, but agrees. We continue across the bridge and descend to the opposite side of the thoroughfare and the darkened alleys that lead to rows of sleepy shops. We choose an alley that runs parallel with a wider, more populated street, and although it's more brightly lit than the one we walk on, in comparison to the normal Saturday night, it's dead. In between the passing buildings, we see the mostly vacant restaurants and cafes. We hear the clown sounds of an all-night gaming arcade. We see a solitary man and his sniffling dog. The alley that we walk down used to be lined with high-class brothels disguised as bars or tea houses, an extension of Korean business culture, Asian capitalism. On summer nights like tonight, they used to leave their shop doors open, affording the passerby a random glimpse of miniskirts crowding the bar, or old men with their suit coats off, red in the face but full of laughter. In the past few years, though, these establishments have been replaced with proper cafes and bars, year-round Christmas-themed cake houses, and Japanese restaurants. This street has cleaned up, gentrified, I comment approvingly, for the most part. You said that the last time we came through here, she says. I'm repeating myself, I say. That's a sign of old age, she says. So are kidney stones, I say, and children for that matter. Are they, she asks. Certainly. And this hairline, I say, taking my hand from hers and combing it through the front of my hair. What the hell am I going to do with this? She laughs. I don't know, she says, but if you're going to be bald, you can't be fat. Who says? Well, just think about it, she says. Bald and thin isn't too bad. Maybe it's even a bit sophisticated. But bald and fat is just, well, it's like you always say. It's a reflection of the vulgar life. It's so, Western. Yeah, I say. I can't help but frown. Sometimes I hated it when she repeated things I had said to her back to me. How about this one, she asks, pointing to a dimly lit cafe with outdoor seating. We stop in front of it. It's not as if I have control over any of this, I say. Sure you do, she says. If you don't like this one, we can keep walking. But there's outdoor seating here, and I know how you... My hair, I say, more dramatically than I would like. I'm talking about my hair. Her eyes trace my hairline. What about your hair? It's disappearing. I feel like I'm disappearing. She laughs again and takes my hand, pulling me towards the door of the cafe. Didn't you say people who consider their hair too much are vain? People who have hair, yeah, it's different with me. We go into the cafe, only to go back outside through a door that leads to the outdoor tables. Inside, there's a couple eating cake. Outside, there's a man drinking espresso and smoking a cigarette. We sit as far from him as we can. I don't normally worry about my hair so much, but with fatherhood and now this internal asteroid putting me into hospital, I can't help but think time has its disassembling kit out and is going at me with a vengeance. Disassembling, disappearing, neither would be so bad if I didn't still feel like a child. I didn't own anything. I hadn't done anything. I was just starting to figure things out, or at least feeling the urgency to figure things out. Wasn't this decline a bit premature? Yunsa knows what I'm thinking. I never have to tell her these things. I order a beer, and she gets one of those fizzy drinks I suggested. As we wait for the order to come out, she looks my face over and my hair. A smirk breaks across her lips. It looks mischievous, doubtless a face she acquired in her early years of life. You're still handsome, she says. Paris handsome? What are you talking about? She says. Her voice is full of laughter. You're much better looking now than when we were in Paris. What are you talking about? I returned the question. I was only 22 then, 2 years into my wild years, on top of the world. There wasn't a wrinkle on my face. I could function without sleep. I could do almost anything. Don't make yourself into a superhero, she says. I practically was. She looks at my hair again. Your hair wasn't much different then. And your belly, she laughs at the thought. Your belly was huge. If you married an American woman, you'd probably look like you were in your 40s now. I don't even want to imagine it. I think you're having a fine time imagining it, I say. Our drinks come out, my beer in a frosted mug, her fizz in a mason jar. Picking up my glass, I think the frosted mug of beer served up a great victory in man's battle against the summer sun. There's the actual sun that shines on the world, and there's an inner sun in everybody that we call consciousness. We are a little more than tiny suns, shining our lights here and there, receiving reflections from some things and nothing from others. From all sides, our inner sun is under attack from the inclemency of the actual sun, especially on a smoldering August night, from the insatiable appetites of countless inner suns, and from the lupin anxieties of our individual suns. Cold beer, pain-killing medication, these magic plants and magic containers dim some of our harsher reflections. This is what grounds the coolness of sunglasses. I gulp down half the glass and sigh with too much feeling, slouching back in my chair. Yunsa eyes my glass. You haven't always been able to drink like that, she says. You used to take those little baby sips. I offer a wry smile. Beer has grown on me over the years, I say. She looks down at my stomach. And you've grown on it as well. We've got a complicated relationship, I say. She frowns and says, a man shouldn't have a relationship with a beverage. I consider this a sensible rule, but I don't want to pursue the topic further. Do you remember the Blue Room? I ask her. Of course, she says. Paris, February 1st, 2005. I don't remember the name of the hotel, though. It was 2006, I correct her. We met at Waterloo Station and ate your homemade rice dumplings for breakfast, using coffee stirrers as chopsticks. You had been at the same station 2 years before, on the way to Amsterdam with your friends. She remembers. They called you Dos Panini then. I shake my head. The things you remember. I say, that wasn't my nickname. It was just that day. Those station sandwiches are too small for anyone who's actually hungry. Anyways, the Blue Room. Do you remember which arrondissement it was in? She interrupts, pronouncing the French awkwardly. I wave her question away. The Parisians are so snooty with their arrondissement, I say. They've got a river and some cathedrals. Get over the rest. And there was that man on the street that took us there, she says, by the hand practically. That's right, I remember. We didn't speak a word of French. I should have, after studying it every day for a year, but that old man was like nothing Americans imagine the French to be. He took us right to the hotel and then to the Korean restaurant we also couldn't find. And you say it was better than any Korean restaurant you've been to since. That's the truth, I agree. But that's the French, you know. Bread and entertainment. They don't have much going on outside the kitchen. But anyways, the Blue Room. I never told you, but it kind of scared me. Why? She asks, leaning forward to find the twisty straw with her lips. I down the rest of my beer, signal for the waiter, and order another. Yunsa watches me as I perform all these actions. Her eyes, as they follow the waiter back to the bar, remind me of the medication I'm on, but neither of us talks about it. The cafe is playing a jazzy R&B tune. The singer is singing about happy love, but there's sadness in his voice that hints at something more complicated, more realistic. It's not really my style, but it sure beats the pop advert music that's blaring out from most cafes. The waiter delivers another frosted mug. I take one of those baby sips from it, but it's intentional, and I want another as soon as I place the mug down. She looks at the beer and the little that's gone from the lip of the glass, and then back to me as if to say, continue. What was I saying? I ask, knowing perfectly well what it was. I take a larger sip from my beer. Ah, yes, the Blue Room. It was a little uncomfortable to have everything in only one color. I wouldn't be surprised if that's a method of torture somewhere. A hotel in Paris, she mocks. I laugh. Sure. Do you think Paris is only art and pastries? No, a room with only one color. I mean, even the bathroom soap and toilet were blue. That's got to blow something in your head after a while. Well, we made it out all right, she says. But that's what I'm talking about, I say, my hands joining the conversation. Maybe we didn't. Maybe something happened in there. Something did happen in there, she says, but we weren't there very long. Oh, this coming from the girl who believes in love at first sight, I say. What does that have to do with anything? If love can happen in a second, why can't some curse happen after several nights in a hotel room where everything is blue, psychotically blue? I ask. My excitement resembles anger. A curse? She laughs. Is that what we've been talking about? Magic? And besides, you can't discriminate against blue like that. Picasso did. Not exactly. And it's not magic. It's more like an omen, I clarify. I thought of it as some kind of omen, and that scared me. As if in that room the blueness would absorb everything we did, and it would just repeat. We'd be there forever, only once we left, we'd never be anywhere again. We're here now, aren't we? She asks. You know that's not how I meant it, I say. I'm not sure how you meant it, she says. I'm not sure what you're talking about. She always said that when she didn't want to talk about it anymore. She slurps at the remaining liquid there with the ice at the bottom of her mason jar. I drink down my beer in one large gulp. The man with the espresso and cigarette leaves, and we're alone. A few university students in American-style Letterman jackets pass down the dark alley in front of the once brothels that are now places of coffee, cakes, and dates. I signal the waiter for another beer. Watching all along, she says, you've already had 2. The laughter of debating the past is gone. What's the third, I say. This sun is killing me. It's 11:30, she says. We need to go home. What if Lynn wakes up? Your mother's there. She hasn't called yet. I doubt another beer will be a problem. No, I've got to go, she insists. Hang on, I say, standing. I need to go to the bathroom. Cancel your drink on the way, and we'll go home together, she says. How about I come back and drink it, and then we go home together? There's a feeling in my stomach, or somewhere around there, that I should give in to her. But it's not the only feeling there. There's another that pushes me along towards the other end of night. My shooting star doubtless flies with one of these desires. As I turn to go, she says, I won't stay if you get another. I walk past the bartender as he gets another frosted mug out to pour my next beer and enter a bathroom that's surprisingly spacious and clean. The music from the cafe, which has switched over to minimalist solo piano, is piped in through little speakers in each corner. The room is a striking milk white, and in the light, almost blinding. Everything is white. There is even a row of white potted plants against one wall, their green leaves being the only contrast in the room. I wonder what it must be like being a bathroom plant under bright, false light, surrounded by the odor of waste, day in and day out. Reflecting on it a moment, I realize I know it well enough. At the urinal, I again become amazed by the whiteness of the room, and I think that the music must be Satie. This thought only hangs on briefly and is quickly replaced by the fear of my shooting star. It was this bodily function that called forth the previous waves of pain, and I wonder if I might be in for another round. With eyes squeezed shut, I let go, contributing my own primitive accompaniment to Satie's elegant typing. My anxiety dissolves. I relax, and from my black room and the white bathroom, I enter the blue room of my past. I see Yunsa standing at the open window, looking onto the narrow street below and the weathered Parisian brownstones across from us. I'm standing near the bed, confused by the surreal contrast of what's outside the window and the pervading blueness that surrounds me. I'm also pleasantly nervous with a youthful excitement, an expectation, the feeling of which I can never fully grasp as it recedes further into a chaos of events, even though the idea of the memory of the feeling has strengthened out of proportion with the years. When I open my eyes, the sci-fi wonder of the bathroom returns, and I feel certain that I have fallen asleep in front of the urinal. This bothers me a little. After washing my hands, I address the potted plants aloud, being the only witnesses to my somnambulism. It must be the beer, I tell them, or the medication. Strangely, the cafe became crowded during my absence. The tables are full, the waitstaff busy. The din of Saturday night has finally arrived. As I cross the room, I notice my lonesome, frosted mug at our table. Yunsa, true to her word, left me there. Before sitting, I look out down the dark alley, but there's no sign of her. Perhaps she's already riding the metro, heading for the black waters of the Hangang, the gray, matted sky above its reflection, for the stars are lost in the city lights.